It was just another quiet evening on Highway 251 when Luke's life took a turn he could never have imagined. He'd been driving his truck for hours, the road stretching endlessly in front of him. The only sound was the hum of his engine and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Then, out of nowhere, a deer darted onto the asphalt. Luke swerved hard, determined not to hit it. The deer escaped unharmed, but Luke wasn't so lucky. His truck skidded, tilted, and with a deafening crash slammed down on its side. Groaning, Luke managed to crawl out of the cab, his body sore but alive. But as he looked around, he froze. The force of the crash had torn open the top of his truck, spilling its entire load onto the highway. The road and even the grassy shoulder were littered with hundreds of strange objects, blue and white balls like oversized rugby toys, rolling into the ditch and across the asphalt. "What on earth?" Luke whispered to himself. From a distance they looked like harmless playthings, but something about them didn't feel right. Earlier that morning, he had already sensed something unusual. Normally, Luke oversaw every detail of his cargo. He loaded it himself, signed the papers, and always knew what he was carrying. But this time, when he'd arrived at the depot, a group of workers had taken over completely. They loaded everything while he was told to sit in an office far away, not to worry about it. At the time, Luke shrugged it off, grateful for the break. But now, staring at these strange objects scattered across the road, that memory gnawed at him. Curious, he crouched and picked one up. It felt heavier than it looked, firm under the wrapping. As he tore at the outer layer, determined to see what was inside, the low rumble of an engine cut through the silence. Luke looked up. Headlight. A black SUV with tinted windows slowed to a stop beside the wrecked truck. Then another, and another. Within minutes, the scene was swarming with identical vehicles. Dark-suited men stepped out, their faces expressionless, their movements calculated. They didn't answer Luke's questions. Instead, one flashed a badge, calling themselves police. "Step away from the truck, sir, for your safety." Something felt wrong. They cordoned off the area with yellow tape and began collecting the blue and white balls with urgent precision. Luke was herded away, forced to wait nearly 300 feet from his own vehicle. His buddy Stephen soon arrived to pick him up, but as Luke slid into his car, Stephen noticed something hidden under his coat. Luke had snatched one of the mysterious balls before they could stop him. Back at Stephen's house, the two men placed the ball on the kitchen counter. With trembling hands, Luke grabbed a knife and began to cut it open, layer after layer peeling away like some sinister onion. After 5 tense minutes, the truth lay before them. Inside were syringes, small packets, and a bag of pills. Their blood ran cold. "Drugs?" Stephen whispered. "Luke, what were you carrying?" Luke shook his head. He had no idea. And now, the men in black suits seemed less like police officers and more like something far more dangerous. If they were willing to show up so quickly, what else were they hiding? But Luke wasn't ready to run. He still had the transport papers tucked into his jacket pocket, the ones that listed the loading and unloading address. Maybe, just maybe, the destination would reveal everything. And so, with their hearts pounding, Luke and Stephen drove toward the address, unaware that the answers waiting for them would change their lives forever. The address led them far from the city lights, down a narrow country road that ended at an old warehouse. From a safe distance, Luke spotted his own overturned truck parked outside, surrounded by more of the black SUVs. Men in suits guarded every corner, carrying the blue and white balls into the building. The sight made his stomach twist. Whatever this was, it was no ordinary shipment. Stephen parked the car behind a line of trees, and together they crept closer. Luke snapped photos with his phone, documenting everything. But as he stepped around a stack of crates, his boot crunched loudly on broken wood. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Within seconds, flashlights blinded them, and heavy hands yanked them from their hiding spot. The men dragged them inside the warehouse and shoved them into wooden chairs. The room smelled faintly of chemicals, and in the corner stood long steel tables cluttered with glass vials, syringes, and small machines humming quietly. It looked less like a storage building and more like a laboratory. A man in a white lab coat soon appeared. Unlike the others, he didn't look threatening. His voice was calm, almost reassuring, as he asked, "Who are you, and why are you here?" Luke hesitated, then decided to tell the truth. He explained everything from the crash to finding the strange packages, and finally the ball he had smuggled away. The man listened carefully, then held out his hand. With a shaky breath, Luke placed the package on the table. The scientist unwrapped it with practiced ease, revealing exactly what Luke and Stephen had found earlier, syringes and pills. Luke's voice cracked. Is it drugs? Is this some kind of cartel? The man chuckled softly. No, not drugs. Medicine. His name was Dr. Larson, a chemist working under a confidential government contract. He explained that what Luke had been transporting were vital medical ingredients, rare, expensive, and easily targeted by criminals. To protect them, the shipments were disguised inside the strange ball-like casings. Even the drivers were kept in the dark, their ignorance ensuring secrecy if anything went wrong. Luke and Stephen exchanged stunned glances. The men in suits weren't traffickers, they were government agents. The secrecy wasn't about crime, but protection. Dr. Larson leaned closer, his eyes serious. Every one of these shipments has the potential to save thousands of lives. That's why we guard them so closely. But your actions tonight, they show courage, and more importantly, curiosity. You didn't run. You wanted the truth. Then came the twist Luke never expected. Dr. Larson offered him a job. From that night forward, Luke could become one of their trusted transporters, paid well, sworn to secrecy, and tasked with delivering life-saving medicine across the country. Luke sat there in silence, heart pounding. Just hours earlier, he had been an ordinary trucker, swerving to avoid a deer on a lonely road. Now, he was being asked to play a part in something bigger than himself. He thought of the accident, the confusion, the fear, and then of the possibility that his work could actually help people. He signed the papers. Stephen promised to keep quiet. And just like that, Luke's life took on a new purpose. In the weeks that followed, he drove new routes with a different kind of pride. Each sealed container in the back of his truck no longer felt mysterious or sinister. Instead, he thought of the lives that might be saved because of his cargo. For Luke, the accident that had nearly destroyed his truck turned out to be the event that gave his life new meaning. And every time he looked in the mirror, he remembered that night when strange blue and white packages spilled across the highway and changed everything.